Hello, everyone.
Hey, guys.
Welcome to Take 47, where me and my good friend Cole Wood here
That'd be me.
are going to be talking about all the things that interest us in the entertainment industry with film and all that jazz. And we're going to be talking about all this stuff for, about a month or so. A nice little mini-series, unless, you guys love it so much and we just, either that or we love it so much and we just keep going.
But today, for our inaugural episode, we have a very special topic, which is 5 directors that each of us want to see more content from.
Very true. So, without further ado, let's get into it. So, Cole, since guest honor, what director would you like to see a lot more of?
Well, me personally, I always loved watching these movies, not only for the spectacle of it, but for all of the story elements and the winding, twisting turns this director takes. Christopher Nolan holds a special spot in my heart, and I would love to see more movies come out of him. Now, I know, of course, as I'm saying this, Tenet has come out, or will be coming out.
Coming out in July.
Yes, and I am very much excited for that, but it has been a while since we've gotten a Christopher Nolan movie.
It has. He is also, it's funny you mention him, because he also is my number one as well.
No kidding.
We definitely don't see enough of him, but I also, of course, see it as a good thing. It's like, slow and steady wins the race.
Mm-hmm.
I would love to have him just come up with a movie every other year or so, but,
I feel like it might get old, like Assassin's Creed type coming out.
Yeah, like
every
or
year,
like a Call of Duty type thing.
Yeah.
Just I really, really hope that Tenet's really good, especially since we've been waiting a decent amount of time since Dunkirk to actually get something from Christopher Nolan, and I am looking forward to Tenet. But so what do you like so much about Christopher Nolan?
Christopher Nolan, I feel like, is one of those directors that really has a great relationship with all of the cast members that he chooses. I think that he hires actors that want to work with him and that he wants to push the boundaries of. I'm talking about people like Christian Bale, people like DiCaprio, people like Joseph Gordon-Levitt, who I feel like was slated to be bigger than he turned out to be, if that makes sense,
No, I do understand that. He also loves working with Michael Caine. He's
does
been in like 4 or 5 movies.
If it isn't a movie with Michael Caine, then it really isn't a Christopher Nolan movie.
No.
But I also love his affinity for practical effects.
Oh yeah, absolutely. We it's funny you say that, because we just got some footage about how Christopher Nolan, for his newest movie Tenet,
yes,
is he straight up just bought a Boeing 747 and slammed it into a building to blow it up, and it's all real.
Because, quote, it was easier.
Yeah, it was.
Than CGI.
I love that, where he's like, we were just looking at the numbers, and it was much easier to just blow up the real thing. And he said, I'm not gonna lie, it was kind of an impulse buy, just buying a Boeing.
Because who wouldn't? You're telling me
that.
if you could just go out tomorrow and buy a jet, wouldn't you?
Of course.
Wouldn't you film it too? I mean, such
is
is
really cool.
The temperament of man. But you said that Christopher Nolan was also your number one.
Yes,
pick.
I love the way his films look. All of them look...
a cinematography perspective.
Yes, because I know he uses IMAX cameras.
Yeah.
And just the way all of his movies look, I don't really know how to...
They're spectacles.
Yeah, like, the thing that, like, there are some shots that are just so... They look so clean.
Mm-hmm.
Like, like you could be there. A lot of moments like that in the Dark Knight trilogy. Having Batman on, like, for example, in the Dark Knight, having him be on that giant building in Hong Kong, and like that really awesome like 360 shot of him just overlooking the city and all the lights are there. It was absolutely gorgeous. Like, I love love the cinematography he has. And I also love that all of his action scenes are all hand to hand. Like, there are like some gun scenes, but in movies like Inception, like they had a whole fight scene with a rotating room, and with like the rooftops and all that stuff. Like, it was a fist fight. Like, I love he loves like choreographed melee, like hand to hand combat.
I think you really got to appreciate that, because that's, I don't want to say it's a dying art form, but it is become like second place to like superpowers or guns or
well, yeah, because it's much easier to like
power.
shoot someone in the face than like
yeah, absolutely.
Like, you know, you can pull the Indiana Jones route where the guy, you know, swings his sword around and Indiana Jones is like, okay, no, and then bang, done. Like, that was funny.
It is a much simpler route.
You don't have to choreograph that much, but no, you take that extra time to, like, you know, get this whole choreographed fight scene done, and it looks really cool in the end. I really like how he takes his time. I agree with you with all the practicality. I am a massive sucker for practical effects. Like, John Carpenter's The Thing is one of my all-time favorite horror movies, specifically because they didn't use CGI and it was nothing but practical
and it's
effects.
Still scary.
And it looks so cool. I love that. And that honestly is, you know, a topic for another video, like practical versus CGI, like, you know, which one really is better.
And is one better than the other?
Exactly. Nolan is such... He's also very... He's not afraid to tackle a movie concept that seems confusing as hell. Inception.
As in Inception,
and Prestige also had a couple moments, too, where you're like, huh? Like, oh, that's weird. Especially towards, like, the end of the Prestige. He has no problem explaining these complex situations to the point where the average moviegoer can understand it.
That's very true. He takes very, very complex ideas, such as, you know, Nikola Tesla being in The Prestige as David Bowie.
Yes.
Sorry, David Bowie in The Prestige as Nikola Tesla.
Yes.
I mean, it's naive as a movie maker to think that your audience is just going to understand who Tesla is and what Tesla did just to go see a movie, but he integrates him so flawlessly into the story that you're not sitting there dumbfounded like, now, what did that guy do again?
Yeah, exactly.
What's his name?
The cloning part towards the end, too, that Hugh Jackman ended up literally finding a way to clone himself.
One of the best twists, if you...
Oh, yeah. Because, like...
Spoiler alert, but... Oh,
well, I mean, the movie's
it's an
been
old
around.
movie.
Yeah, the movie's been around for a while.
Go watch The Prestige.
Yeah, but, like, his reaction to, like, seeing himself, and he just went, like... He was shocked, and he just took the gun and just shot him. It was like, wow. Like, it's so cool the way Nolan can handle these things. And you can sit there and be like, yeah, like Tenet looks confusing as hell.
It does.
If I remember correctly, I want to say it is an Inception-related sequel.
I believe that it is...
Because I know Michael Caine's in it.
It is like... I don't want to say theorized, but it's just been a question as to whether or not it is like the secret sequel to Inception. And I think what that really means is that they take place in the same world.
Yeah, I don't think any returning characters would, you know, show up like DiCaprio or...
Yeah.
Because, like, Inception ended on
that.
Yeah, Inception basically ended on, like, a one note. Like, it ended. There was a very specific end. I mean, granted, the ending of that movie... you can talk about.
It was open-ended, but there were only like two options for it being open-ended. It was either he was in a dream or he wasn't in a dream. You know?
Yeah, exactly.
And either one of those things... The important part of the movie is, like, don't go into it being like, this is the continuation of Inception. But keep Inception in mind.
Yeah. But that is another perfect example, too. Like, Inception... Nolan came up with this entire dream sequence, all the levels of a dream, and how if you die in the dream world, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I have seen this movie a couple years ago. It has been a little bit since I've seen Inception. There's like this dead zone if you die in a dream and you're basically stuck in there and someone has to get you out.
You can stay there forever.
Yeah, because Ken Watanabe's character, that's like the first thing you see in the beginning of the movie is this really old Asian guy.
Yep.
And Leonardo DiCaprio is in there trying to save him. So it is a really, really like wild movie, but you can follow it fairly well. Like, it really is just, Christopher Nolan has a knack for just, like we said earlier, just taking a complex situation and breaking it down enough where it doesn't lose its complexity, but you understand it.
Do you know what Inception was based off of?
No.
A Russian war tactic called disinformatia.
Really?
Yes, and which really just means, like, the dissolution of information. And what they do, like, actually, this has been proven. Like, the Russian military has found a way through Facebook to infiltrate. They make bots that go very, let's say, vegans versus hunters, right?
Okay.
So they make bots that are vegans, and then they make bots that are hunters, and then they'll set up conventions for each one across the street from each other, and then news stories will be like, oh my gosh, look at how these people are feuding.
Yeah.
But really, it was just created by the Russians. And so that's where he got the idea of, like, what if we put an idea in someone's head and make them do the idea? So yeah, it's
That's
all based
wild.
off, right? And that's a wild concept.
Yeah, that's incredible.
And he found a way to make it into a blockbuster.
That's
fantastic. If you ask me.
That is another thing too. He is capable of turning these movies into blockbusters. He is, without a doubt, capable of doing that. I mean, all of his movies have made a killer amount of money, especially the Dark Knight movies. I mean, they raked in a bunch of cash, and they were both, aside from being commercially successful, they were also critically acclaimed as well. All of his movies are really critically acclaimed. For me personally, I want to say there's like one or two movies I haven't seen of his, but I've seen Prestige, I've seen the Dark Knight trilogy, of course, I've seen Inception, I've seen Dunkirk, and all of those movies, there is not a single one I hate. I do not. I mean, there are ones I like more than others, but they're not. They're not a roller coaster ride in terms of score. Like, oh, this one's really high up, this one's really low. This one's pretty okay. They're all a very even plane, with some of them being like little hills in the road, like being really high up there.
At his worst, Christopher Nolan is still great.
Exactly.
Like,
and not a lot of directors can say that. And I wholeheartedly agree with your choice of Christopher Nolan. And since that was my number one as well, we will jump back to you as well with
my number two. This director is another one who I know for a fact that we will be seeing more of, and that he has movies in his repertoire that are coming up. Mr. Taika Waititi.
Woo-wee! Man, that's such a good pick.
I was starstruck when I saw Thor Ragnarok.
I agree.
I genuinely had another friend, a mutual friend, say to me, like, once Thor Ragnarok came out, like, we can stop making movies now, because that one is, like, the funniest, wittiest, like, the best storyline. I was just captivated.
And it was so weird.
It was so weird. And it was such a welcome change from the format.
Especially for Thor movies,
movies, yeah.
Oh, yeah. 100%.
And so if that wasn't already good enough to cement Taika Waititi as a director to follow, he comes back, and what does he do next?
Makes Jojo Rabbit.
He makes Jojo Rabbit. Which I actually don't think that enough people have seen that movie.
No, unfortunately not. It's definitely a sin. And also, a lot of people criticized it without even seeing the movie.
Talk more about that, because I know that you know a lot more about this particular movie than I do, because you took me to see it, actually.
Yes, I did.
And I really loved it.
So I work at our local movie theater, which, as of right now, due to current circumstances, not exactly open right now, but we are opening soon. When Jojo Rabbit came out, first off, we didn't even have it at first.
It took a while.
Yeah, theater distribution for Jojo Rabbit was incredibly low in the beginning, but then it gained enough traction. It started slowly getting kind of Oscar buzz, and that's when they were like, all right, well, now it's time to release this movie internationally and just worldwide. The amount of people who crucified the movie because it had Nazis in it and Hitler as a little boy's best friend, just off the bat, and never actually saw the movie, so many people were like that. I had people who, at the movie theater, would go and they would be incredibly annoyed if you explained the movie to them. They'd be like, that sounds kind of in poor taste.
And these are customers coming to see the movie.
Yeah, a few times our friend Frank,
yes.
He covers box office a lot, so he basically, people ask him what a movie is about, and he explains it to them. And so many people are turned off by just hearing the premise of Jojo Rabbit, and it's really unfortunate because having seen the movie more times than I could count,
it's a brilliant work of political satire.
It absolutely is, and I made sure I needed you to see it. I needed as many of my friends to see it as possible, and I was glad that it came back for a little bit too around the Oscar season because Griffin didn't get the chance to see it, and when he saw it, he cried and said it was his favorite movie of the year.
That doesn't surprise me at all. I mean,
No.
that is his movie right there. Yeah.
Though I love Jojo Rabbit, and it really is unfortunate that a lot of people, when it was there, didn't see it. There were times that, for example, the first time I went to go see it, nobody was in there but me and a few of my friends. When I brought you to see it, there was a handful of people aside from us in the theater.
Genuinely no more than 5.
And it was knocked to the back of the theater, out of sight, out of mind, right on arrival. And it's really unfortunate because Taika Waititi is absolutely an absolutely fantastic director, and please continue with what you like about Waititi because I feel like we're going to be on the same page in this one.
I just, I like his style of comedy. I really do love it. He has mastered the element of foreshadowing in his movies, I think, really well, because in Jojo Rabbit, I kept on noticing things that he would leave there. Shoelaces, shoes were a big image. The color of his mom's shoes. This about the tying of the shoes, and then that all comes back together. Spoiler alert: when Scarlett Johansson gets hanged in public.
That hit me so hard.
Yeah.
When I first saw the movie, I was like, oh my god, no.
And so I thought it was done. I thought that when she got hanged, I was like, so that was the shoe thing, and it's all been wrapped up now. But then it even comes at the end, and the end of the movie is like he can tie his shoes on his own now, and he ties the
girls' shoes as well, yeah.
And it just astonishes me that he was able to so flawlessly incorporate that motif into the storyline again and again and again.
Oh yeah.
Really amazing. And I agree that I think that it is unfortunate that not a lot of people got to see what I would consider right now his masterpiece.
Oh yeah.
But one thing that I do know for sure is that everybody is going to be watching his next movie. Is it a movie or is it The Mandalorian? Because I know he's in charge of Star Wars now.
So, I know
Not
that
in
he
charge
is
of Star Wars.
he is meant. I wish he was in charge of Star Wars.
That would be
something. Wild. I do know that he is, as of right now, he is confirmed to write and direct a Star Wars movie.
Mm-hmm.
That is excellent news because, as we have seen, he took Thor, one of the superheroes who had his solo movies were easily the worst of the bunch.
Thor wasn't a big deal in the Avengers until Taika Waititi made Ragnarok.
Because he had a little bit, I liked him in the Avengers movies, but right when Ragnarok shows up, and I mean, for me, I actually saw, Oh no, that's right. I did see Ragnarok before Infinity War. Right. I thought for a second that I didn't, but
I saw Infinity War before Ragnarok.
exactly, like Thor was a very big character in Infinity War, and he definitely he was saved, I think, by Waititi as well.
Because I don't think that I would have cared about Thor
No.
in Infinity War unless Ragnarok had come out.
Yeah, exactly.
Like it justified Thor having such a large standing
Yeah.
in the Avengers as one of the main three.
He is set to make the fourth Thor. Thor:
I
Love
think
and
that's
Thunder.
a great idea, a great pick. I think it's a great pick to have Taika Waititi continue,
Oh yeah, I completely agree. He
not take the route of Star Wars and switch directors.
Yeah, no, he clearly he knew Thor inside and out for Thor Ragnarok, and I think it would be an absolutely it'd be a stupid decision not to put him in.
I
for the
think
next Thor.
part of the brilliance of Taika Waititi too is that he is a writer and director.
Yeah,
So many people.
and actor technically,
Yes,
thanks to JoJo.
You're right. But like he holds that triple threat. and he uses it to his advantage because so often, you see, oh, this guy wrote this movie and then gave it to someone else to direct.
Yep.
But Taika Waititi writes his movies and has this picture in his head because he is the best person to direct what he writes. Like, I genuinely don't think if he wrote Thor Ragnarok and then gave it to someone else, I don't think it would have been
No.
as amazing of a movie.
And it's actually funny you say that because all of his friends, the movie has been around, if I remember correctly, since like 2012.
Thor Ragnarok?
No, JoJo.
Jojo Rabbit.
And
Wow.
he would explain the premise over and over again, and studios were like, that's a little rocky. So he finally had the chance to do it. And they were like, you have to play Hitler, though. No A-list actor is going to look at that and play Hitler. Like, that's a very risky thing to do. And he
It
was
is.
like, all right, then I'll just...
He could have wrecked his career right then and there.
Oh, yeah.
He could have.
If it was at all, like, just in poor taste and just gross, absolutely his career would have been... he would have tanked 100%. I mean, we've seen directors have their careers destroyed for less.
Yeah, that is very true.
So I'm very glad that he was capable. He has the skill set to do that perfectly. And I would love
he
to.
proved that with Jojo Rabbit. He
Yeah.
proved that.
And I'm looking forward to seeing solo work, not just him working with other franchises. Because as we've seen, he's great with Marvel. He's great on his own. And now I can't wait to see him make a Star Wars movie as well. And I mean, he is technically in The Mandalorian. He was
Yeah.
he was IG
That's true.
11. So that was a very very awesome thing.
But that's enough about Mr. Waititi, I think. What do you have next on your master list?
So
Sure.
for my number 2 is someone that is actually, now that I think of it, he is very similar to Taika.
Really?
Or in this case, Taika is similar to him. Wes Anderson.
Influencer. Wes Anderson.
Yes. Wes Anderson is, I think, one of the funniest directors around. He's capable of taking dark humor and makes it so funny. I mean,
Like in Grand Budapest? Or...
Grand Budapest especially is personally my favorite one. The Royal Tenenbaums. You have fantastic Mr. Fox.
His most recent was Isle of Dogs.
Yes. And I love the just dark humor in all of his movies. And they're all very weird. Wes Anderson is one of those directors, compared to Nolan and Waititi, that is not for everyone. There are very, like, if I were to show some of these movies that he made, like Budapest Hotel, to someone, like my parents, they wouldn't like it at all. It's way too. It's weird. It's quirky.
It's very expressionist.
It is.
And
The color scheme of all of his movies are always like really vibrant. Especially
quite
in Budapest.
pastel.
Yeah, in Budapest, it felt like a fantasy.
yeah, lots of
pinks.
like pinks and purples, and I believe like some light blues as well.
Waititi and Anderson have this thing where they'll kind of just have something weird happen and not explain it and just go to the next scene. For example, in JoJo, when Hitler just jumps out a window and just goes juice and leaves. That's it. And then the scene just ends. There isn't like a reason for it. Anything. Nope, that's bye.
You're absolutely right.
And then for example, in Grand Budapest, the scene where Gustav breaks out of prison with all of his prison friends, and they open a hatch and they see a bunch of prison guards playing cards, and they look up, and one of the prisoners who's trying to escape, without second thought, immediately pulls out a knife, jumps down there, and they all die. That's it.
Yeah.
And then they just leave. There's no like explanation, no like, oh my god, he just died. Nope, he just dies. And they're like, oh okay, and just leave.
I really appreciate that aspect of
I do
his
too.
movies, though, because not only is it so humorous, but I think that it serves as a world-building technique of just, like, these occurrences in the world are normal.
Yeah.
And that is why I don't pay any attention to them.
Yep.
And because he sets that up, you don't think twice about maybe, like, a talking animal appearing, or Luke Wilson trying to commit suicide with his pet eagle in Royal Tenenbaums. Like, you know, it's like these such wild occurrences are suddenly second nature to these characters.
Oh yeah.
With Wes Anderson.
And I think one of my all-time favorite things about Wes Anderson, his dialogue. His dialogue,
You like the dialogue?
Is so snappy, it's witty, and I eat that stuff up in movies. And especially his knack for picking actors who 100% can deliver it, and better than anyone else.
Mr. Bill Murray, ladies and gentlemen.
Bill Murray, absolutely. And Ralph Fiennes in Grand Budapest absolutely killed it in his role. It's like, you know, it's this outlandish dialogue that anyone would read it and be like, what the hell? Like, this is a very weird
You wouldn't know how to
movie.
approach it, yeah.
Exactly. And then there are these actors who literally will be like, all right, I'm going to say this line now. It's a very weird line. You're going to embrace that weird line. And then at the end of the day, you're going to sit there, you're going to analyze that line and go, that was pretty funny. And then we're going to call it a day. That's it. Like full regalia, just full send. It's great. I love his dialogue, and that's something that him and Waititi share. And especially, we could see that in JoJo a lot, where he can be so passive aggressive with certain sentences too. Like, hey, you know, everyone, this is Jojo Betzley, you know, the guy who blew himself up with a hand grenade, and now I'm demoted, and I have to look after all you wonderful kids, for something like that. Or the part where he's Gustav and Zero in Grand Budapest are sitting on the train, and he has his visa, and they go to arrest him anyway, and Ralph Fiennes is like, you goddamn assholes, and like, it's just it's so fun. Like, and then he says too, like, if you lay a hand on him, don't lay a hand on him. Like, I love
your knack for remembering movie lines is quite impressive.
Because I've seen Budapest so many times. It's one of my
worth it.
My all-time faves.
Worth it. I do believe that that's Wes Anderson's most popular movie too.
Yeah, and I'm absolutely looking forward to his next one as well. He I don't remember when that is coming out, but it is definitely coming out. I know Bill Murray's in it. I know a few returning not characters, but actors from Grand Budapest Hotel are going to be in it. I know Adrian Brody, Bill Murray, I want to say Goldblum.
I would love to see Bryan Cranston come back. He was in Isle of Dogs.
Yes.
And that was his first Wes Anderson role, I believe.
Yes, I believe so, yeah. He was really good.
He was great. I would love to see him tackle that.
Yeah. The Isle of Dogs cast, actually, was really, really good.
It was great.
And I loved, for example, jumping to Fantastic Mr. Fox. I loved George Clooney as Mr. Fox. I love that Wes Anderson still respects stop motion, because stop motion is really, really cool. And I love that he just takes his style of filmmaking and just throws it into claymation. And I absolutely love that.
Because I almost haven't seen I do not think that I have seen a claymation movie since like. Oh no, because I've seen Coraline. I was gonna say Wallace and Gromit.
Oh,
But-
right. But Coraline, though, was a while ago.
It was who?
And Kubo and the Two Strings was like the last.
Yeah. Every once in a while there'll come a great animated movie
yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
Truly impressive.
I just wish
and-
there were more.
Not only does it revive the claymation or stop motion animation market, but it gives actors who you normally don't see doing voiceover work the chance to do some voiceover work. Like
Oh, yeah.
I don't think I've ever seen Bryan Cranston do voiceover.
No, I don't think so either.
And
Actually.
yet I think he nailed it.
Oh, yeah. He absolutely killed it.
Now, whether that's Wes Anderson's directing or Bryan Cranston's acting,
Or a
I
bit
think
of
it's a little
both.
bit of both.
Yeah. I definitely think that Wes Anderson, he knows how to pick his actors. He knows what works and what doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
And he's kind of just like, he has an idea, you let him go with it. You let him
That's
just
very true.
give him all the creativity that he needs. Give him, don't give him any boundaries, and he will make a movie that will be talked about at the Oscars, no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
He is so good at doing it, and he is one of my absolute favorite directors, and I cannot wait till his newest one comes out. So yeah, that is my number 2. So what is your number 3?
My number 3 spot is for a gentleman who brings us a lot of good news right now.
Nice.
Mr. John Krasinski.
Yep.
I loved him when I watched The Office, and I loved him when I watched Jack Ryan, and I loved him even more when I watched A Quiet Place.
Oh yeah.
Wow. What a movie. What a movie.
I love A Quiet Place so much.
It was,
So good.
the hype for it was real,
Mm-hmm.
and then the movie delivered on all of that hype, which
Oh,
is
yeah.
so rare.
Mm-hmm. 100%.
John Krasinski wrote and directed that movie.
And acted.
And acted in that movie. All 3 of those things. I believe he rewrote an original script. Like a script was made for this movie. It was
Yes.
a very different script that he got and then rewrote into this, which is, for anyone who hasn't seen A Quiet Place, it is a horror movie that plays with sound, and specifically a lack thereof. It stars him and his wife, Emily Blunt,
Yes.
who does one of the best performances I have ever seen for like just a character's wife. Like,
Oh.
you go in and you're like, oh, okay, well, that's the wife and John Krasinski is the main character, but it's not.
No.
She becomes the
Yeah.
main protagonist.
Yep.
And it's just such a miraculous story of him, his children, his family, how they get through this post-apocalyptic horror story.
Yeah. I completely agree.
Of course, we're supposed to get A Quiet Place Part 2,
That
and
I
that was postponed
believe it's in September now that we're gonna get
in
it.
September.
Little too far. Since we were so close to getting it, and then Krasinski came out and was like, "Yeah, we're gonna delay it," and I was like, "No."
It's unfortunate, but I think it's a wise choice.
It is especially for from a financial standpoint. It absolutely is the case because, of course, a movie does have to make its budget back.
But I hope that this isn't the end of Krasinski's directing. I hope that he
Absolutely.
doesn't just do Quiet Place Part 2. Those are my movies.
Yeah, I would love for him to make another movie outside of A Quiet Place and all that.
Of course, he still is an actor that needs to worry about his performance career.
Yes, that is also very true, and it seems like he really isn't having any shortage of acting roles, that's for sure.
That is for sure. I mean, just look at Marvel Comics starting to base their Fantastic Four drawings off of
Yeah,
John
he's
Krasinski and his
Mr.
wife.
Fantastic.
Yes,
Yeah.
he is.
I hope that they actually make him that in the Marvel in Fantastic Four.
I can't say I would be upset.
No, because I would love to see Krasinski just more and more. Because what I love about Krasinski is he has this range that has been displayed so beautifully in these past 10 years or so. He started off as the lovable Jim Halpert in The Office. He was everyone's favorite character. He was funny. He was lovable. He was kind of awkward, and it was great. Then all of a sudden, you have A Quiet Place show up, and A Quiet Place is the exact opposite of The Office. He plays this serious role. He's this leader. He's this father figure. And that's such a drastic change. And then you go to Jack Ryan, and Jack Ryan, he's the main character. He's, I want to say, what is a CIA, right? Isn't he like a CIA operative?
Yeah, it's definitely special ops of some sort.
And he kills it there too. He has such a wide range as an actor, and then you look and it's like, but wait, there's more. He can direct too, and he can kill it. He made a feature-length movie without little to no dialogue, made it effective and super successful both commercially and critically.
Yeah.
And that was his first directorial debut.
Which is amazing. Like,
Right?
I cannot stress that enough. One of the things that stuck out to me the most about his job directing A Quiet Place was there is a scene in the movie, for anyone who has or has not seen it, where Emily Blunt's character is in the bathtub.
Oh, okay. I thought you were going to talk about the nail.
Oh, gosh.
But no.
That is a gut-wrenching scene.
Yeah, that's a really good one.
But she is in the bathtub, struggling to hide, trying not to make noise while giving birth to a child, because if she does make noise, she'll get killed. John Krasinski said that, like, he didn't even, like, make his wife do anything specific. He just kind of was like, I'm gonna let her run with what she thinks. She did that scene. It's screaming, it's bloody, it's horrifying, and then right when she was done, she goes, so what's for lunch?
Yep.
And John Krasinski's like, perfect, it's perfect.
Yep.
He just lets his actors run with it.
I love it.
And that's the mark of a great director, is knowing when to trust your actors and when to intervene.
Yeah, he put a lot of trust in the child actors of that movie too. He was very I can't remember the daughter's the actress's name for the life of me, but I know the son's name is his actor's name is Noah Jupe, and he's also in he's in movies with a lot of really good actors and all that stuff. He was just in Ford v Ferrari with Christian Bale and Matt Damon.
That is right.
He was Christian Bale's son, and it's very clear that these actors have a lot of respect for, and especially for being so young, a lot of respect for the craft itself, and it's cool that Krasinski clearly recognizes that and lets them just, go off and do whatever, and then at the end of a really intense scene, he'll, say cut, whatever, and then he'll go up and he'll make sure that they're okay. Like, hey, are you good? Do you need anything? And that's great. I love that he seems like a really genuine guy. I love that he has this knack for... Millicent Simmons
is the
girl name.
The deaf
the girl's
child's name. Yes.
Yes,
the
and she is deaf in real life, right?
Yeah, and he actually took the time to learn some sign language to communicate with her. It's authentic.
Yeah, and
and it's beautiful.
I love John Krasinski for it, and I hope that A Quiet Place 2 is good, and I really hope that that the next movie we see him either in or behind the camera on, because in the second one, he's, as far as I know... Oh, no, that's right. He is on camera.
Is he?
Yeah, I guess he's in some like flashback scenes or whatever, so it'll be nice to see him as that character again.
Yeah, I was worried that he wouldn't be in A Quiet Place Part 2 at all, but I'm glad that he will be.
Yeah, and I'm glad that he picked Cillian Murphy to be like the next main guy, per se. Whether he's good or bad is, entirely...
Yet to be seen.
Yeah, to be seen. We'll find out, when the movie, of course, comes out in September. But no, I definitely agree with your pick for John Krasinski. That's a really good one.
Which brings us on to your third, correct?
Yes. So my third has been around a little bit longer than Krasinski. Just a little bit.
We have a fan favorite, maybe?
Oh, yeah. 100%. Quentin Tarantino.
Quentin Tarantino.
What a director. He is easily he's once again just one of the best.
He's one of the best. He's a staple of Hollywood.
Oh yeah. And the best thing is that he takes ideas and concepts from different filmmakers all around the world and just puts them in his movies. For example, Kill Bill was there was a scene where I can never remember the names, but this woman walks in. She's in a white gi, if I remember correctly, or kimono, I forget. And she's walking in to meet with Uma Thurman. And the very iconic music that was also used in Kung Fu Panda to kind of parody this. It's like that yeah, that one.
Yeah.
Was featured in an old Japanese film. And he decided to take it and it ran off with it and showed it to Western audiences, and it just blows up. The
recycling of art forms. He does that a lot.
He does do that a lot. And he also doesn't hire a composer for his films. All of the tracks that you hear are not composed by anyone that he hired specifically for the movie.
I think I heard that most in his most recent movie, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Oh yeah.
Those were all sounds of the 60s.
All 60s music. And the one time you hear just, an instrumental of sorts, it was once again another work composed by someone else at a completely different time period, rather than him hiring someone like Hans Zimmer or Alexander Desplat or anyone like that. In Django Unchained, he also does the same exact thing, where all the music you hear in Django is music from a bunch of westerns, a bunch of old spaghetti westerns, Italian western films, American western films, and it's funny that that's even a thing too, because that Italian westerns are brought up in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. That's a very big plot point.
It's
Italian
pivotal
westerns.
for DiCaprio's character.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's great because he's kind of like displaying this music to, a newer generation of audiences. Like, I love the music in Django, and I love the music in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and I wouldn't know about some of those music tracks, especially in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, unless I saw the movie. And some of them are my favorite. Like, I have a whole playlist on Spotify, for example, that's specifically all the music from Django. I love the music work that he puts into his movies.
It's very interesting too that he can create a soundtrack full of things that were once used for a completely separate work of art, right? Because it ties a string between things that you wouldn't have thought to put together.
Yeah, 100%.
Before.
And he also is the master of violence. He loves violence.
Yeah.
A lot of people think that is it's a very controversial thing to talk about. A lot of people think that the violence is unnecessary and all that. I don't think it is at all unnecessary. I think he uses it as a plot device. I think if the story calls for a massive shootout and it's a bloodbath, he's going to do one. I mean, the easiest example of that...
Hateful Eight.
Oh, that, yes, absolutely. But to kind of feed it into another compliment, he is the master of making tension just show up without reason.
Now, what do you mean by that?
So, for example, two movies that come to mind off the top of my head that are incredibly intense, or three. I'll throw in a third. You have Pulp Fiction, when Tarantino Travolta and Samuel L. Jackson walk in. It's in the beginning. It's the most iconic scene in that movie.
Of course.
It's, of course, when Samuel L. Jackson is reciting the Bible verse. And that whole scene, you're sitting there on the edge of your seat, and you're waiting, and you're waiting, and you're waiting. And then right at the end, it pays off, and Samuel L. Jackson and Travolta just annihilate the guy that's sitting in the chair. Say what again? Say what again? Like, does Marcellus Wallace look like a bitch? And it's like, what? And then he just shoots him in the knee. Like, it's great. It's so great.
You are correct in that he's able to build up the tension so that it is almost overflowing, and right when you can't take any more, he always pays off.
Oh yeah.
He always pays off.
Another great example of this is the bar scene in Inglourious Bastards, where they're sitting there, they're having a good time. They're sitting there and they're getting information from their operative on the inside behind enemy lines, and everything's going well. And then all of a sudden, a drunk German soldier shows up, and he's like, "Oh, like it's a great time." And you think, whatever, this dude's gonna show up. They're gonna like, "Look, dude, go away," and he'll go away. And you think that's gonna happen, and it takes this complete 180, and only one person gets out of that scene alive. There are so many people who enter that scene. Great actors too. You have Michael Fassbender shows up in 2 scenes. He's like he goes in and he does not come out. And it just ends, and right when the tension starts spiking even more is when the German soldier pulls a gun on him under the table, and he's like, so no one's getting out of here alive. And he goes, "Oh, really?" And Michael Fassbender's like, "You fail to realize I've also had a gun on you this entire time." And then you're sitting there like, who's gonna shoot first? And you're like, oh my god. And then of course everything goes to shit, and then boom, only one person gets out of that scene.
Like always, it devolves into madness.
Yep. And another fantastic example of this is Django Unchained, the dinner scene towards the end of the movie, where you think everything is going perfect, everything is going well, and then one thing happens, and the whole thing explodes. Everyone dies, and there's only 2 people or 3 people in that scene who get out. And yet so many people were in that scene in general.
Yeah.
Tarantino,
you're absolutely right.
He is the master architect of putting a bunch of characters in a room, and it's basically no matter what, there's a bomb. The audience knows there's a bomb.
Mm-hmm.
They do not know when it's going to go off. So you're just sitting there, and you're waiting for this moment to happen. And you're really hoping it doesn't happen because you like these characters, and that's another thing. Tarantino, he knows how to get the audience invested, and he knows when it's a good time to kill those characters you're invested in.
That is very true.
It's build up. And then when you have enough to like these characters, you have enough to form your opinion at this point in the movie, then that one scene happens. And Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is the same way, except it happens towards...
I think Once Upon a Time in Hollywood was actually kind of mold breaking.
It was, yes, absolutely.
Because the examples that you're talking about all follow a very similar formula of happening.
Yeah.
Of when they happen in the movie. But when I saw Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, I genuinely thought that I was going to be let down because, 3 hours passed and that scene hadn't happened yet.
Exactly.
And so I was like, oh, maybe it's finally just not what he wants to do anymore. But whoa, was I wrong about that?
Yeah, the last 20 minutes is exactly that. And he took a little bit longer this time. He decided to slow the pace a little bit.
Yeah, well, that was a slow burn if I've ever seen one.
Yeah, that movie is easily one of his slowest burns. But Tarantino, he's a fantastic director. Unfortunately, out of all the directors that we're talking about,
he's the only one that put a time limit on himself.
Basically, yeah. For those of you who don't know, Tarantino has publicly, he's gone out and said that he wants to make 10, and he's done.
And Hollywood was his 9th.
Unfortunately, yes. Hollywood was his 9th movie, which means that we have one more, and then we get to say, allegedly, goodbye to one of the greatest directors of our time, and that's really unfortunate, but it's really nice to end on a high note, so hopefully he can deliver. So that is my number 3. So what is your number 3?
My number 4,
Or
actually.
4, right, yes.
My number 3 was John Krasinski, and my number 4 is one that I expect to be disagreed with, and that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because what would this be without a couple hot takes?
Right?
So let's just jump right in. My number 4 pick for directors that I'd like to see more movies from is Sam Raimi. Yes, you heard me right. Sam Raimi from the original Sony, like 2001, 2002 maybe, Spider-Man series.
Yes.
The trilogy of Spider-Man movies.
Oh boy.
With Tobey Maguire.
That is a hot take.
Absolutely, it's a hot take. I'm not going to pretend like Sam Raimi is better than any of the directors that we've already talked about. I already like those directors more than I like Sam Raimi.
Right.
But I think that he has a very distinct style of campiness to the movies that he makes that is just homey. That's just friendly and cozy, and I'm able to release my doubts about the movie and just watch it for its entertainment value. And sure, I could go off all day about why Spider-Man 3 is a terrible movie. But you put on Spider-Man 3, I'm gonna sit down and watch Spider-Man 3 with you, no doubt. And you put on Spider-Man 2, you bet I'm gonna sit down and watch Spider-Man 2.
Yeah, Spider-Man 2 is awesome.
I also think that he could make another Evil Dead right now, and it could do pretty well.
Oh yeah.
In the climate that we're in. Like with how serious superhero movies have been taking themselves, and with how successful Thor Ragnarok was for breaking that mold, I think Sam Raimi has an open spot to fill.
I agree. I'm actually surprised you put Raimi on here, but the points that you bring up are very, very true. I mean, Evil Dead is incredibly campy, and he did make that movie incredibly goofy.
Yeah, because he leans into it.
Exactly, and I think that really is it's an honorable trait. Like he really can make just super campy things, and just it can really, really work. I think the perfect example of this is how he was able to bring J. Jonah Jameson to life. And
a brilliant portrayal done by J.K. Simmons.
Absolutely. And I think that both him and Raimi, of course, absolutely have to be praised for that, because J. Jonah Jameson, I love his character in the Raimi movies. I actually just recently watched a compilation of every scene from Spider-Man 1 to 3 of J. Jonah Jameson, and the dialogue that's written for him is hilarious.
It's surprisingly good.
It's so funny. I love it. And I really like that Sam Raimi does embrace the camp. I like that he's able to just kind of have a fun time with making, a movie, and it really is a respectful, thing. I don't hate Sam Raimi at all. There are definitely directors out there that I really don't like.
But that's a video for another day.
Yes, it is. Sam Raimi is definitely not one of them. I think it's just, if anything, for me personally, I was really let down by Spider-Man 3. Like, a lot. Because, we've seen...
I think a lot of fans were.
Well, yeah, we've seen the campiness of Sam Raimi's Spider-Man. 1 and 2 were incredibly... I mean, are you kidding me? Willem Dafoe as Green Goblin. His suit looked like something you'd see in Power Rangers. It's goofy. The first 2 movies are incredibly goofy. But that was the charm of them. They're great.
Yeah.
The dialogue is so campy and silly, and you love it. It's just, for some reason, I don't know, the third one just... And it tried to, and I think that's more of a studio interference rather than his fault per se, because I know that they really, really wanted Venom, if I remember correctly, in
They did
in
really
it.
want Venom.
Yeah.
And I would actually say that Sam Raimi's casting choice of Topher Grace is what dug that movie's grave.
Yeah.
Because even Topher Grace, for anyone who doesn't know who that is, if you've seen That 70s Show, he played Eric on That 70s Show.
Yes.
Eric Foreman, I believe, is his name. But that's not the important part.
Right.
Topher Grace played Venom, and in an interview, Topher Grace even says, like, what? You want me to play this part?
Like, are you
Like,
sure?
that's not my... But I'll do it. Like, yeah, I'm not going to say no to Venom, but you're
Yeah.
sure that you want me to do it?
Yeah.
And Venom, the character of Eddie Brock, went instead from, you know, like the character that Peter Parker is opposite of. It just turned into like, well, which one is nerdier, which one is, you know, more Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Like, I'm
Yeah.
Venom, and I'm gonna be upset by noise.
My
I don't
spidey
know.
senses are tingling, if you know what I mean.
Gosh,
Oh,
that's
God.
a real line.
Yeah, that's the stuff that, like, it's so weird. But the good thing is, though, we do get to see Sam Raimi direct Doctor Strange 2.
I think that is a huge opportunity for him,
Absolutely.
and I think that if he pulls it off, it could be very revitalizing for his career.
I absolutely think. I think it's actually a really good choice, the type of movie that Doctor Strange, at least the first one, was. You have so many like weird moments in the first Doctor Strange because of the quantum realm, if I remember correctly, and like all the crazy illusions that you'd see in that movie. I think Sam Raimi's knack for campiness and just being weird, I think, fits perfectly with the underlying themes of Doctor Strange, and I feel like
I
that
do too.
would be incredibly effective. So hopefully, he absolutely kills it. I would like for him to succeed a lot because I love Doctor Strange, and I would love to see Sam Raimi take on the sequel of Doctor Strange, and of course we will. I would also be very happy to see another Evil Dead.
Oh yeah,
Him
Sam
and Bruce
Raimi,
Campbell.
you heard it, man. We believe in you. All
Yeah.
you gotta do is deliver. So balls in your court.
Your move.
But that brings us to your number 4 pick.
So
Unless you have anything else to say about Mr. Raimi.
no, I honestly have to, just like you said, the ball's in your court, man.
Yeah.
Just hopefully you can deliver, because I'd like to see you succeed. I don't like seeing directors fail unless it's. Never mind. No, I'm kidding.
We're not rooting for you to fail, man.
No, not at all. Not at all. So my 4th is someone who is very, very popular at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
And once again, he is just like John Krasinski.
Really?
He started off in the comedy world, the comedy scene. He has a show on Comedy Central. And then
Okay.
he just magically went, hey, you know what? I'm going to make a horror movie. And it ended up winning some Oscars.
Oh,
That
I know
is
who you're talking about.
Jordan Peele.
Jordan Peele.
Jordan Peele is so funny to me because I remember seeing him when I was like 13 years old in his Obama Angry Translator videos.
Yes.
That's how I
what a
became
classic.
exactly. That's how I became familiar with Key and Peele, and then seeing their skits, for years and years after that, and then suddenly hearing that, Jordan Peele's gonna be making a horror movie, and it's about race, and I'm like,
Took
really?
everyone by surprise.
Yeah, I was very, very confused. I'm like, no way. Like, why? That doesn't even seem. I don't really know what to think of that. Then I saw Get Out, and I loved that movie so much. Get Out is so good, and he was so excellent with just symbolism in general. He is
That is the strongest part of those
so effective at making just these really, really nice like visual references to racism and slavery and all that stuff, and it's so obvious in in Get Out, and he doesn't like force it down your throat. He does it in a way that's super effective, and it's great.
I'd say especially in Us as well.
Exactly. I was
Even though
just about
most
to bring up Us
people-
as well.
It is almost unanimously agreed upon that Get Out was the better motion picture.
Yeah, there are some people I know that thought Us was stupid.
I didn't think it was stupid.
I didn't think it was stupid at all.
But I think that it is definitely true that Get Out, if you want a richer story and you want to delve deeper into the symbolism,
Yeah.
I think that you should watch Get Out.
Yeah, I would 100% agree with that. Us was also a different caliber of movie, I feel.
In what way?
Us felt like an episode of Twilight Zone, where it's like where it's this whole theme of doppelgangers, because I know that Jordan Peele did came out and say that doppelgangers frighten him. That's like one of his big fears.
Yeah.
And I think he made a movie that was very entertaining, and I think it definitely achieved what it was, supposed to be. It was supposed to be this weird, kind of creepy movie, and have that thought in the back of your head, like, what if there is a second me that like mirrors me? Like, it's a cool thing that he did, and
To bring up Coraline again, it kind of takes that story even further.
yeah, absolutely. And to bring up the fact of the whole, like, symbolism and all that stuff, there's a scene in Us where it's one of the first scenes in the movie, in the very beginning, where they're walking on the beach, and it's an overhead shot, and you see as they're walking on the beach, there's shadows right there for each character. And it's obviously, given the movie's theme, it's very obvious what that means.
Yeah.
It's very obvious what that symbolizes. But he doesn't have to say anything. It's very...
And
it's just there.
It's a detail that you'll catch after, maybe not the first watch. Maybe
Yeah.
the second, maybe the third.
Absolutely.
Because Jordan Peele creates movies that benefit from watching them multiple times.
I agree. 100%.
I don't think that you can really appreciate any one of his movies just from seeing it once.
Yeah.
At least you can't appreciate it on a deep level to understand all the intricacies that he's laid in.
Yeah, I completely agree, without a doubt. Jordan Peele is another, I wouldn't necessarily say newcomer to the entertainment industry in general, but he's a newcomer when it comes to directing. And
Definitely not the entertainment industry.
Yeah, and
But
I'm
the horror industry.
absolutely, and I think it's funny to me comparing him and Krasinski, or just putting them in like the same group of comedy figures, understanding horror more than the directors who specifically make horror movies.
That is a very
nowadays.
interesting point. Do you think that there's any sustenance to that, or it's merely just a correlation?
I think.
A coincidence?
Well,
rather.
I feel like comedians have like a really nice, like bird's eye view at everything. I mean, they make dark humor.
Yes.
They know that's what they do. That's their whole thing. They look at current events, jokes. They make jokes, and I feel
You have to be very smart about what you're talking about to
Absolutely.
to make the level of jokes that they are, though.
yeah,
Like, it's not just stupid comedy that Jordan
No.
Peele was
not
putting
at all.
out, and I mean everyone knows that, but it was still such an unexpected switch when he made a horror movie, and what was even more unexpected was that it would be so genre defining.
Absolutely. And that's what's really, really awesome to see. And I love Jordan Peele's just knack for horror in general. And it really seems like it wasn't like a one and done or a two and done thing. It really seems like he's here to stay in the horror genre because, if I remember correctly, he's producing the newest Candyman. With I forget who's directing it. Nick DaCosta. I could be wrong. I think that was the name of the guy directing Candyman, but he is slated to produce it.
You are correct.
Is Nick DaCosta?
Yes.
Okay. And he also did Twilight Zone as well. Jordan Peele is like the host of the show. So it's very clear that he loves the horror scene and the very like like weird horror too. It's not like a straightforward like masked killer going to, hunt you down, whatever, in a cabin in the woods. It's horror movies that kind of make you think. Like Get Out, for example. I mean, yes, it was 100% like modern day slave owners, but in a really weird modern kind of sci-fi horror way where it's like mind control.
You're right.
The surgery that they do with
it doesn't dwell on. Okay, you're right, because it uses slavery's history.
Yes.
To bring the concept of it into the future and to almost redefine what slavery is, right? Like,
yes.
Okay, yeah, sure, that was abolished, but maybe you guys are still doing some things to black people that aren't great.
Yes, absolutely. And then you, of course, have a thing like Us where it is like a slasher, but the slasher, the person who's hunting you down, is yourself. And that's another like wild thing, because it's like you technically can't hide from you.
They'll carry the golden scissors and
exactly.
one glove.
Like that's
creepy,
so cool.
Memorable aspects really stick in your head.
And the fact that they're like a unhinged version of yourself, it's almost like, in a way, it's almost like the embodiment of, like the evil side of you. And I think that's really, really cool. And I'm glad that Jordan Peele is able to, he's like, similar to Christopher Nolan, just take these wild things and then run off with it and make a really, at most, an entertaining, or at the least rather, an entertaining ride that will stick with you, and you can sit there and you can think about it afterward, and you end up liking it more because of it. And I can't wait to see Candyman. I can't wait to see what Jordan Peele has in store, what other movie he plans to direct, what other wild ideas he has. I'm absolutely looking forward to it, and I'm really glad that he's on the scene making horror movies that are like really, really cool. So that'll be my number 4. So now we're on the final stretch here. So who's your number 5, Cole?
My number 5, my last pick is another hot take, perhaps an even hotter take.
Than Raimi,
if it's possible. I mean,
oh boy,
yeah,
all right.
Really stretching thin here.
All right.
But
Let's
this list is about directors that we want to see more from.
Right.
And this director, I think, has really taken a lot of time off, and it's time for him to come back. And George Lucas, I think I need to see what he can do again. George Lucas. Of Star Wars, Lucasfilms. I want a reprise. I want him to come back and share some of his original thoughts again. Because really, Star Wars has been tanking. For me, at least. And I think Star Wars as in the motion pictures. Because we see time and time again these spin-off stories like Mandalorian or the Clone Wars being huge in the community.
Yeah, because they're really good. Like, you have people who actually care about it.
And then on the movies, the forefront of what Star Wars always was, they're just failing.
Yeah.
They're flopping. I mean, now they're a success monetarily, but if you ask anyone about the sequel trilogies, the answer is going to be the same. Didn't like them.
Yep.
Thought that they were good until this part. I really hated that character. Why did they let Rian Johnson come in and ruin this movie? And it is so heartbreaking to watch.
It is.
The series fall apart like that.
I wholeheartedly agree.
Now, don't get me wrong. I think George Lucas went crazy, and I think that he was a crackpot, and I think all the things that you will say about George Lucas, I will agree with you. But it was his baby. He had a lot of great ideas, and I think that his main problem was he never knew when to cut it short. He never knew when to stop.
Yep.
He just kept on adding, kept on changing, And change isn't bad, but like when you release Star Wars, just leave it.
Yeah.
Don't keep changing the movie, man. I mean, you release a movie, you want to edit it for yourself, that's fine, but like don't keep the world from seeing the thing that you gave them. You know?
I agree. I think the only reason why George Lucas was even remotely effective at bringing his stories to the big screen, and that's in no way ragging on him as if he was incapable. He isn't, obviously, from what we've seen. Star Wars is now one of the biggest franchises ever, and I mean, all of that does have to be, no matter what, because of George Lucas. However, I think he has to have people who are around him to tell him when it's enough. To tell him
He needs that boundary set.
he needs those no men, if you will.
Yeah, otherwise we get Jar Jar Binks.
Exactly.
Again.
Because
Not to beat a dead horse, but...
well, no, it's very, very true though, and especially in this topic, from what we know now, A New Hope was saved in the editing room because, if I remember correctly,
Is that true?
yes, his wife, if I remember correctly, saw it and was like, "What the hell? This is jarring." Like, no, because the sequence in the beginning of A New Hope, as we all know it, is Leia's ship getting attacked by the Empire, and Darth Vader shows up and is trying to find the plans. Leia,
You're my only hope.
exactly. Leia gives the message to R2 and C-3PO. Both, they go away, go to Tatooine, and
A timeless story.
Exactly. The rest is history. That whole sequence was broken up so much in
No
the
kidding.
original cut. So, for example, while Leia's ship is being attacked, they cut to Luke on Tatooine. And their stories were basically together in the first act, like just spliced together. So Darth Vader shows up on the scene. And all of a sudden, it cuts to Luke doing some boring, he goes to Tashi Station to pick up some power converters from that, the iconic whiny line that Luke has is, "But I was going to go to Tashi Station to pick up some power converters." Like that whole thing. He goes there. There's a
No
whole...
one has spoken George Lucas's verse so truly.
He was supposed to go there. There was a whole bar scene. His friend was supposed to be there. I forget his name. But he shows up at the end of the movie. But like there's this whole like boring sequence of Luke being told like what the rebellion is and like all that stuff. And while that's going on, the original cut, it cuts to Vader doing the whole like, "Where are the plans?" and then ends up killing him anyway. Like, it was so jarring because it bounced back and forth, and then the people in the editing room are like, "No, show everything Vader and Leia first. And when R2 and C-3PO get to Tatooine, that's when you show the Tatooine stuff."
That's a
It's
much
so
smoother
exactly,
idea.
and
Really necessary for George Lucas.
absolutely, he clearly the people around him are the very reason that they were able to bring his vision to light in the most effective way possible. Because there's no doubt about it, George Lucas is a visionary. He absolutely is capable.
Yeah, he is.
He made this fantastic universe. He made Star Wars, and no amount of praise can be given for that, because Star Wars is a fantastic universe. There are so many different stories, but he can't do it alone. He's capable of building it and putting it on paper. He needs more than himself to put it on screen. He had people say no. Mark Hamill himself had a line he didn't like and was like, "No."
Very vocal about it. Mark Hamill
Exactly.
was very vocal. And I wish that he was in these new trilogies, too.
Well, I want to say he was for The Last Jedi, because
I
he
think you're
said
right
that
about
he
The
was,
Last Jedi.
he was very annoyed about Luke's character in The Last Jedi, and Rian Johnson was just like... actually, I'm pretty sure Mark Hamill said it in an interview, too. He was like, they basically just, said no, pat me on the top of the head and said, "Here, have a cookie." and
Yeah.
that was it.
Yeah.
Which is really unfortunate. But
It's just really sad to see all these, the new Star Wars cast to be so almost abused by the Disney team on this, or the new Lucasfilms team, because you almost didn't hear any horror stories until the trilogy was done, and then finally all of them were out of contract and could say whatever the hell they wanted.
Yep. It's unfortunate. But George Lucas, I would love to see him do something again.
I think now is the perfect time for Disney to go and work out another deal. I mean, they already paid him all the money for Lucasfilms, so maybe not give that back. I don't know, but like, just have him on as a temporary guy. Like, you will work with us in the storyboarding room, but after that, we're not allowing you in the editing room or something. I don't know. Like,
yeah,
there's definitely a deal that I think could be worked out. Oh my gosh, you know what's so funny?
what?
Topher Grace.
Mm-hmm.
To bring him up again, it is a well-known fact of Hollywood that he has like the ultimate Star Wars cut. He took the prequels and he took the original trilogy and made it into one big long movie that just tells the whole story, and he takes out all of the most uninteresting parts. I don't think Jar Jar Binks is even a character in his movie. And like it's just one big long supercut of all the parts that people like.
I would absolutely love to see that. Like, even if it was like a one-time event, if they were like, he's gonna stream the Topher cut.
The Topher cut.
For one night only. And like, I'm sure someone would probably like download the footage and then, send it off or whatever, but like, I would love to see what he, or at least like if he said like specifically what is in his cut.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, in my cut, there's none of that really garbage dialogue about Anakin and Padme.
Yeah.
Like, you're so beautiful. It's only because I'm so in love. No, it's because I'm so in love with you. Also, love has blinded you. That stuff. Get rid of all that garbage.
Topher, man, I know we ragged on you earlier, but send us that movie.
Right? If you have the Star Wars supercut, I want to see the Star Wars supercut. I mean, you can't just say, "Yeah, I have it," and then just
and
that
then
it.
not.
Like, that's it. Like people are desperate to get something on the big screen, at least for Star Wars, that this is really good. And I would definitely. I don't disagree with your pick of George Lucas, though. I really think
it's a hot take, but I think it's justified.
It is, and I would like to see him come up with something that isn't Star Wars, and it's
like
this,
a brand new franchise.
Maybe not even just like a one-time thing, like a solo project type thing.
Yeah.
If he just has the right people to tell him when to stop, because he has these absolutely crazy, vision, like these just gorgeous set pieces. You have Bespin, you have Alderaan, you have Tatooine, you have Dagobah, and all these like crazy places, and all these like crazy wild characters that nobody's seen before. I mean, Yoda. You have all the crazy aliens in the cantina on Tatooine. Like, he very clearly has this absolutely wild mind. And I think that if he were to make a new world, a new universe, if he took the time, it theoretically, if done right, could be as big as the original Star Wars trilogy. It could be a newer Lord of the Rings, if you will.
Yeah,
where he just builds this massive world and everyone loves it. And I totally think he could do it. You just need the right team to help you out, because there's no shame in asking for help, because
it's very true.
When he had the help, we got episodes 4, 5, and 6,
which were truly the height of
exactly
the cinematic best of Star Wars. George, we have faith in you too, buddy.
Yeah,
come on,
George Lucas,
prove us right.
You got some great ideas, and I'd love to see them, some new ones. I'd absolutely love it.
But finally, last and maybe least, I don't know. Tell me, who's your final pick on the list of directors that you'd like to see more of?
So, my final pick is also a director who has had 2 movies. And those 2 movies, one much more so than the other,
Okay.
are very, very, very good, and at the least, very, very immersive. And the director I'm talking about is Robert Eggers
Of The Lighthouse.
of The Lighthouse and The Witch.
Yes.
Now, Eggers has a
Yes.
knack for, similar to that of Christopher Nolan, where he loves practicality. Now, I think Eggers is a little bit more practical compared to
I mean, The
Christopher
Lighthouse
Nolan.
is a testament to that.
Exactly. And The Witch, he, for that movie, for example, he built an entire cabin or a hut that would be built during that time period in the same way it was built during that time period. And the entire movie is filmed with natural light.
It's a real respect for the craft.
Oh, yeah. It's all candlelit. And some people were complaining, like, oh, I can't see anything. But he didn't care.
Yeah,
That was his vision.
For our listeners, I don't know if you know how hard it is to light a movie, but that's like one of the most expensive parts.
Oh yeah, you have so many different gels you have to use, like so many ways to manipulate one light.
So for him to just say, no, only what the world gives me,
Yeah,
is almost scary.
yeah.
Like,
Like it was all candlelight, candlelit, and lanterns, or not even lanterns if I remember correctly. It was just like candlesticks. It was just the lighting that was accurate to that time period, and I love.
it's miraculous that it was able to be made.
Exactly.
That way.
And then you have a movie like The Lighthouse, which was also naturally lit. There were scenes where, and that's what I think is perfect. Like, I would actually love, now that I'm thinking of it, I would kill for this.
Oh my.
I want Robert Eggers to bring one of H.P. Lovecraft's stories to light.
Brendan, I don't know if I have ever thought about that, but I would crowdfund that myself.
Right?
If I could. Oh my gosh.
I would throw as much money, which isn't a lot, at the screen for Robert Eggers to tackle The Call of Cthulhu, Mountains of Madness, anything from Lovecraft, because
Wow,
he
yes.
is capable. I mean, from what we've seen in The Lighthouse, it was so raw. It was so...
The Lighthouse did have some flickers of Lovecraftian
Yeah,
lore.
there were like some, mermaids and like you'd see like a couple tentacles. Like you had that one scene where Willem Dafoe was like this ocean monster.
Mm-hmm.
And I absolutely love.
Real mind-bending stuff there.
Yeah, Robert Eggers is a very immersive director. He will pick a time period and he will do everything in his power to make sure that time period is basically just back to life again. And some of my favorite scenes, and just not even like the subject matter in general, he makes you very, very, like, he gets you so immersed in the scenery, and it makes you unsettled. Like in The Lighthouse,
Yeah.
in the beginning, it's very, very just creepy. All you have is this one little island with a boathouse, a regular, like, cabin where the lighthouse keepers resided in, and then the lighthouse. Those are the 3 set pieces, and then the island itself.
Which is just surrounded by water.
There's no way off.
Mm-hmm.
They are there. They are stuck there for 2 weeks.
And I believe you told me this too, that the storm was actually real.
Yes,
Like
they were.
waited for there to be a storm.
Oh, no, it wasn't
just
even.
happened?
It just happened. Like they were like, "All right, we're using it."
Well,
They're
it
like, "Good luck."
elevated the movie.
Yeah.
It really,
Yeah.
really did.
Robert Pattinson and Willem Dafoe were stuck in these really cold, miserable conditions, and it amplifies the acting 100%. There's gorgeous, like, scenes that are just absolutely beautiful from a cinematography point of view, where, like, they're just sitting down in their hut and they're eating, they're having dinner.
Even though it's only black and white.
Exactly. And that's another thing, too. Like, you have this one candle on the table, and it only illuminates, like, some of their face and a little bit of their shoulders. Just enough for you to understand where everything is. You have a point of reference for everything that needs to be seen. And I think that that's Robert Eggers, it kind of seems like he's like, yeah, I don't care about anything else. This whole scene is meant to be these two actors, so we're making it so that way only these two actors are seen.
But it also makes you feel very alienated from them as people.
Yes, absolutely.
Like that whole movie, I kept on searching for a personal connection with Robert Pattinson's character, but they kept on forcing all the humanity out.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it was just the dissolution of their minds.
Oh, yeah.
This movie, and it made me very unsettled and disconnected as an audience member.
There were times where I felt genuinely terrified, and it wasn't anything necessarily being displayed.
It wasn't jump scares.
No, there were no jump scares at all. It was just
It was the unknown.
the unknown.
What was in the ocean or in that
Exactly,
lighthouse.
like what is real and what isn't.
Yeah.
What like the tentacle that you see in the lighthouse, was it real? The mermaid that Robert Pattinson finds, was it real? The bodies in the water that Pattinson ended up seeing, were they real? And like it was all these crazy things, and you just put them all together, and it was this absolutely terrifying, just unsettling ride. And I absolutely think that he is like a master at doing this. It just less is more.
Less is more.
And that's just the best thing.
Yeah.
And even in The Witch, the devil himself shows up at the end.
Really,
But
I
you
haven't
don't
seen
see
this
him.
one.
But you don't see him. All you hear is his
keeps that a
voice.
secret.
Yeah.
Ah.
You see Anna Taylor-Joy.
Mm-hmm.
The camera's on her, and there's a candle on her, and she's talking to him, and you hear this really just uncomfortable amount of silence, and then he says something, and then she continues to talk with him, and then that's it. You don't see him. It is just the voice, but you know he's there, and it's just what I love about Robert Eggers, is he's just so meticulous about detail, and I absolutely respect it.
That's very interesting that both of his movies like that have such a big challenge with the lighting and such a focus on sound. Because often in new movies, I find that it's the opposite. Like, so many video effects have replaced people listening to the movie as much as it is them watching the movie, to catch Easter eggs or just to look at the spectacle of all the things happening on screen at once.
Yeah.
But Robert Eggers really strips all of that away by taking out, the color, by shrinking down the aspect ratio, by having naturalistic lighting, that it makes you focus more on what he's doing with the sound.
I absolutely agree.
And I really appreciate that.
And I really hope, now that I mentioned it, I really can't get it out of my head. Robert Eggers.
Lovecraft.
The tiniest chance of you listening to this. Please,
I will be
love of
emailing you.
God, please, for the love of God, do something Lovecraftian. I wholeheartedly think, because so many people
I'll go halvesies.
have tried to just bring Lovecraft's vision to light. You've seen it in video games, and it just, none of them, some of them might come close, but none of them have ever been 100% capable of doing it, and I think that you are the guy who can.
You know what I think it is?
What?
I think that the pivotal thing for a Lovecraft movie to be great is that you cannot... Everyone tries to explain the monsters. Everyone tries to make them something that we can understand. But the whole mythos is based on the foundation that we don't understand it.
Yeah.
That it is all-powerful, it will kill you, and there is nothing you can do about it.
Yep.
And that, to me, is Robert Eggers.
Basically, yeah. The fear of the unknown. Less is more. Your imagination will always be scarier than whatever is shown to you.
Yes.
That's what I think a lot of directors don't understand, or they just don't see it that way. And that's, which is fine, but it worked really well in A Quiet Place. For most of that movie, you didn't see the creatures.
That's very true.
Until, the movie called for it and decided, yes, we're going to show it.
And when it was finally time.
Exactly. And the whole premise of The Thing is that you don't know that like you don't know what it is. You don't know how. I mean, yes, you see variations of it, but you never see it, and that's like its true form. Like, that's cool. I love directors that are capable of seeing that, and you don't really see that nowadays, but Robert Eggers absolutely understands that less is more, and the imagination is always scarier than anything that you could put on screen. And that's what worked so well for The Lighthouse and the Witch. So, personally, that is my final pick for directors I would love to see more of.
Well, there you have it. 10 total directors that we would like to see so many more movies from. And I'm sure that you guys have even more that we didn't mention.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there are some that I would also like to have too, but I mean, we needed 5. And
so please
tough to
leave
say.
it in the comments if you have any more. If you want to see another episode where Brendan and I tackle some other directors or maybe actors we want to see more of.
Yeah, absolutely.
Leave that in the comments. And to all of our directors who I know were listening.
Yeah.
Keep doing what you're doing, guys.
Yeah,
we want to see some more.
Absolutely love what you guys are doing. Thank you guys so much for watching. And,
See you next time.
see you next time.